Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my home. My name is Scott Banks, and I am of the Balkanville Bankses, and I'm so glad you've chosen to spend just a few minutes with me. We have a representative here from New York, from the Drama Desk Awards.
No, I'm not.
You're not?
I'm kind of like a reporter.
You're a reporter. Oh, I see. New York Times, Washington Post?
No, I'm doing this for school.
High school.
Oh, no, junior high. Actually,
Junior high.
I'm doing this for a homeschool association project.
So you're homeschooled. Well, so that means this will be seen by tens of people. Well, Scott Banks, just remember, you're a thespian. You're a thespian, you can do this. And the curtain rises. What's your first question? Now, the first show that I did was at the Strauss Theater. I was probably 13 years old, maybe 14 years old, and I was in a show with an amazing star. Amazing! Bob Chambliss. He had the lead in the play that we were in. It was called The Emperor's New Clothes, and I played a security guard, and there was Bob in his birthday suit. Technically not, but he did have on his long johns on stage. So that was my first acting experience, and of course, it was with Chris Ringham. And if you ever remember Chris Ringham, what a remarkable director, what a remarkable man, but to a little 13-year-old who'd never been on stage before, Chris could be a little scary. But that was my first experience at the Strauss, and I've had many other experiences.
Okay, the first show that I was in was actually in second grade, and it was Mr. Popper's Penguins. I'm sure I was the head penguin. I don't remember offhand, but it was fun. But the first comeback from my second grade adventure, the first show at Strauss was I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change.
The first show I was ever in was The Good Person of Szechuan that played at ULM. I think that was 2005. That was a very interesting show. There was like 29 different platforms. I fell off of one of them. That was an experience in the middle of the performance, and then tried to crawl underneath one of the platforms on stage and hit a 2x4. Only like 2 of them were actually flat. There was a lot of memories and injuries, but it was a super fun show. I don't know that it was a very good show. But it was a fun show, and I enjoyed it. And I think my mom was a nervous wreck the entire time, and I was just like, how do I do this again? I love it!
I think I was 10 at the time. It was a show I remember written by Amy Higginbotham. We performed it at our church. I think I played a demon, which, cool. And then we did a show where I played a talking dog. The first show that I actually auditioned for, though, at Young Troop was Macbeth, and I remember going in on the day of auditions. My heart was racing, my stomach, I felt like I was going to get sick, and we walked into the performance space, and they were auditioning for the 3 witches. And I remember sitting down and seeing these 3 people, these 2 girls and 1 guy. I remember him specifically, his name was Conrad, and they were reading the lines, and I remember thinking that this was the coolest thing I've ever seen, because they had these great characters already, created for this scene. They were just having fun with it. And I actually ended up getting the role of Fleance in that show, which was super cool. And I just remember that being a show that was so good to put on. It was dark. It had obviously a fantastic story, but that was kind of my foot in the door of really getting into theater.
The first show that I ever did was called Wind in the Willows. I think I was about 6 years old, maybe 7, so it would have been like 2003, 2004, something like that. I played Portly the Otter. My brother Luke played my dad in the show. That was actually the first show that me and my husband did together. Of course, we didn't even know each other back then. But it's really fun to go back and think about that and go see pictures and stuff.
The first show that I was ever in on the main stage was Anything Goes in 1988 at the Strauss. I played Chastity. I was a 13-year-old showgirl backup dancer character. We started them young back then. Chris Ringham did. And I loved that show. Lots of tap dancing, great cast, great music. I think the Strauss should do it again soon. Yeah, that was the first show that I was ever in.
The first show I was ever in was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, spring 1995, junior year of high school. There's this girl I had a big old crush on, and she was in the show and said, "Tony, we really, really need guys," and I wasn't going to pass that up. That's where it all started, man. That's where it all started.